welcome Nadine Rajabi, my friend, showrunner, executive producer, and a complete badass. And I'm just going to read her bio because it's so deserving. Nadine is fearless. She is America's first professional Iranian female comedian. She is also a national champion black belt. She can kick our butt. A world-class soccer player. You're a world-class soccer player, a competitive snowboarder, and a former semi-pro soccer player. Additionally, you hold a BA in biology and you have your master's degree, neither of which you use in your current role. So, Nadine, are you an overachiever?
I call it ADD, Sandy. I actually call it ADD. It's yes, and maybe it is the overachiever in me as well. But it was also like, I just couldn't sit still as a kid, and I think that's what with the sports. That's what it was. It was like, let's burn her energy.
That's right, because your uncle told me a story once, and you were driving from Newport to LA or somewhere, and he actually offered you.
Orange County.
He goes, I'll give you $5 if you're quiet for 5 minutes or whatever it was. Maybe it was a minute. And exactly when that time was up, because you watched your watch, she started talking again.
Look, I was a businesswoman as a 3-year-old.
Absolutely. That was excellent. Anyway, I want people to get to know who you are. And having worked with you for 7 years, has been incredible to witness because you are an incredible leader and your generation and your work ethic is incredible, which I really admire. I love that you create an atmosphere where people become so loyal because you trust them. And I get to witness how it, from the minute you step on the boat to filming to the post and how real you keep our story, which is really incredible. And I just want people to know who you are. And I'm so honored. So will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, it's funny, Sandy. It's that you say that. It's thank you first of all for having me on this podcast, and thank you for your just being you. For those listening, I've learned so much from working with Sandy in my close to 8 years with her, as 7-8 years with her. And Sandy has helped me through so much besides just watching her work, because, we sit in a room and we just watch the show work. And so learning from Sandy there, but also like just talking to Sandy and her becoming so close to me as a personal friend and, so close that it's a family member, and she's helped me through my hardest times. And Sandy, you were at my grandmother's funeral and you were when my mom had brain surgery. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And, it's funny you asked me to tell me or talk about myself, which I always get so uncomfortable. You wouldn't think, because I started off as a kind of a public speaker because I was a stand-up comedian for a long time. I always thought that is exactly what I was going to do. And when I started this business, I was an intern at Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. It was Bill Maher's show before Real Time. And I just wanted to be a comedian and writer. And, it was funny. It was one of those things where you don't know where life takes you. And I never set out to be doing what I was doing right now. It didn't really exist when I started. I don't want to age myself, but like the only unscripted show that was on back then was Survivor, right? So it's like, we weren't thinking that in real world, obviously. So you weren't really thinking of a career in this. And it wasn't until, and I always kind of like switched around shows and did things like that. And, I fell into what I was doing because I was helping out a friend. And it's one of those things, Sandy, where it's like, do you ever think about, if I didn't meet this person, I would have never, done this job, or I would have never been here. If I didn't meet this person, it's like, it's so crazy how life can change by just meeting one person. Your whole life can change, or doing one thing.
I wouldn't be on Below Deck.
Right. That's right. We should tell that story, actually. So I know we could talk about me a little bit and whatever you want to know.
I
You
want
asked
to
me
know,
the
but you
question.
said you just never know the one person. So please continue.
One person. So when I was a comedian, and I still have fun, and I still go up every once in a while. I don't never announce it because I don't want people to watch, but it's in my blood and it's in my bones. But there was this comedian that I had known for years, and it was season 1 of Below Deck Med, and there was no talk of changing the captain at the time. It was Captain Mark Howard, rest in peace. She was like, how's it going? And, first season shows are always tough with whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's Below Deck that had a format, and because I was already doing Below Deck Original and we were launching Below Deck Med. And whatever show you're doing, it's because, everyone has an opinion of what something should look like. You even though Below Deck had a format, it's like, well, it's a new location. We're just trying to figure out all the pieces. And Monique, this comedian friend that Sandy and I have in common, Sandy knew her from Florida, wanted to pitch me a show idea. So we're having lunch, and she's like, how's it going? I'm like, it's the first season blues, trying to figure out the show. Was nothing like that. And we were talking about the captain, and it's so Monique. So she wanted to pitch me a show idea, and with the captain, we only knew Captain Leah at the time because that was the only Below Deck, and that was kind of like it was an on the bubble show, and then all of a sudden became successful season 3. And I think people have an idea of what a captain should be because they don't know, it's the unscripted world. And so I'm talking to Monique about this, and she just, out of nowhere goes, well, I know a captain. I go, oh yeah? She goes, yeah. She goes, Captain Sandy. And I go, oh no, first she said, she's a female captain. I go, oh yeah, Monique. And, I don't know if Monique's telling me, telling a tall tale, if you will, or telling stories. I go, is she a super yacht captain? She goes, yeah. And then I go, is it in the Med? She goes, yeah. And I'm like, come on, where is this unicorn of a human being that I've never heard of? She goes, her name's Captain Sandy. Excuse my language. She's the tits. So that is the exact word. That's a phrase that she had used to describe Captain Sandy. And I was dying because first of all, I'm like, who uses that word anymore? And I would tell Monique this to her face, and she probably's going to listen and we'll laugh about it. And so I was like, okay. So then, Monique at that time, we should actually look to see if we have that text message still. Sandy texted Captain Sandy and me, and she put us together, and it was just like a Wednesday or Thursday. And I didn't pay a lot of attention to it just because we were just going through life and things like that. And it was a Saturday. I remember I was doing my taxes, and I was not paying attention at all to my taxes because I was trying to get my things together. And as I'm having an ADD cycle, I just Googled Captain Sandy, and I was like, oh my God, she's a real deal. She has a distinguished crew award. She's, saved crew from fires. She's been the captain for the guy that owns the mall, built the mall of Dubai, right?
Yeah.
By the Emirates. And so, and especially to have a female captain in the Middle Eastern countries, I can speak to that being Persian. And it's that is a big deal. And that's actually very progressive of him. Good on him. And I was like, oh my God. So right away I texted Captain Sandy, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I haven't responded. And it wasn't like I hadn't responded on purpose. I didn't think this person existed. I have to be honest with you. And I wasn't having any sexual, bias as far as male or female. Right. It was literally, I didn't think this person existed because it sounded too good to be true. Yeah. So, it's a long story longer, but basically that is how Captain Sandy and I connected, and we started talking, and we met, and, there was a lot of red tape that we had to get through. And I remember I right away texted the network, and I said, you got to meet this woman. She's incredible. And imagine the headline, Bravo's female captain. It's a year for women, because it was when Hillary Clinton was running for president at the time. She ended up not winning against Trump, but it was before, the election, and it was a big deal. And I remember the headline still was Bravo's first female. I have to find the press release. It was a female captain on the Below Deck franchise. And it was very, very, very cool. And what was even better was getting to witness, a charter yacht captain. And what people don't know is there's a big difference between private boats and charter yachts. And I think that the world wasn't ready for, they had one idea of a captain, and, Captain Lee is fantastic. And, everyone runs their ship differently, and that's it. And Sandy is, very ingrained in the charter world in the Medwood. It is, as I've seen it, Sandy, it's cutthroat because you need to get your boat chartered, and you've got to be, Sandy wants the most fun boat. Yes, on.
You gotta be the best, the most fun boat, the most toys, the most spirited crew. Yes. Yeah.
So that's in a nutshell. The story goes a little longer, but that's the nutshell. And Sandy and I connected, and that was, the rest is history. And I think, my background being a comedian and a person that used to be on camera, nobody wants to be edited a certain way. Nobody wants to, be portrayed a certain way. And I remember when I would if they're just cutting down a joke or something like that, one edit can change a joke. One edit can change a meaning of something, right? Like an edit of a word. And I remember when I got into unscripted, my goal was always you have to keep the integrity of what is real. Now it's hard, Sandy. We shoot 24 hours a day. And I know this podcast is not about the show, but this is more about our relationship. It's how do you portray all this footage into 44 minutes of television and keeping it real while having some semblance of Sandy running the boat? And that's and all the people that are on the boat working and keeping the hierarchy, meanwhile telling their personal stories. And some things get lost in translation, and that's not on purpose. Obviously, things just get lost. But that is, we do our best, and our team does their best to always keep the integrity of what is real. And that is why, I think, it's funny because not being trained as a producer and coming up in a conventional way, I actually think I had different training as a person that was, on camera, that was writing, that was doing all that, because I think it gave me the base of true being a producer of, in my, for me, it's I want to be able to put my head down on my pillow and not have anything to worry about of did I do the right thing? It's I was,
and you always do the right thing because, you're a good person, Nadine. And that's one of the things I love having this experience with you every time we work together. You're so respectful to me. You're so respectful to your team that they would do anything for you because you create this environment where loyalty is, if you left tomorrow, you would have a trail of people following you, right? So that's the loyalty because they know following you is going to land them something better down the road.
Thank you.
And most people want to work for people like you, which is really incredible.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about how you grew up in Orange County, right?
Yes.
Yes. And went to college, conquered it, champion karate. Can you tell me what it was like when you transitioned? Because you went to college and getting into this world for the people out there that want to enter your industry, because I think it's really important because your industry is so big.
It is.
You make good money if you really put the effort in which you do. We have the best executive producer, showrunner ever. I feel so blessed, honestly. I feel so blessed. So can you, because I want listeners to know what an incredible industry you have, the travel you do, the people you meet, because, yes, you get the post, you're in the office or, you're doing the grind, but there's so many great things that you experience in this industry, the film world.
And I think for someone starting out, as you're saying, for me, it was, I think a lot of times have changed, right? And I think generations have changed, but I remember I would do anything in a sense of it's okay if I was working for free. And I know that a lot of internships, I don't know if they allow you to work for free anymore, because I did it for college credit at the time. And I got in on that show. And I remember it was I don't care what job they gave me. It was, if I had to make coffee, I would make sure that I had all the cream and sugar next to the executives. I had everything there. If I had to go pick up lunch, it's have all the sauces. If I had to be the best lunch fetcher that I could be, if I had to make copies, make the best copies I could ever make. It was always just being willing to do the work and being open and not having an ego or feel like anything's beneath me. I mean, right now, Sandy, you see, it's like, I pick up trash around the boat. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you cannot let ego ever get in the way. And I think for people starting out in the industry, I think it's trying to find, I think that there's a lot of more resources these days. And also, like, my God, iPhones did not exist back then. It's like people are making and editing their own, like, short films, long films, doing all that. I encourage people to get out there with their even iPhones. Our iPhones sometimes look better than our, I have a lot of iPhone footage actually in the series because sometimes we don't have a camera around and I run out and there's my camera. So I encourage people starting off in this industry to not let any job be like, you can't be above any job. If you get an opportunity, it's follow up, give your thank yous, always email them like, thank yous. Be persistent, not too persistent where it turns people off, but be persistent. And I think that also, like, get out there and, like, if you want to be a filmmaker or somebody that's doing TV, get out there and just go shoot something, because you can put some stuff on the web and people look at stuff. Like, I'm always looking at things and contacting people based on that. If you're young, if you're, if you're not just, starting out and younger, getting in the industry, and you want to get in the industry in your 30s, 40s, 50s, like, there's tons of jobs that allow you to do that. Like, and that's, I let people shadow me. I would ask people, can I shadow you for a shoot? Can I shadow you? Like, when I have development things, I'll allow kids to, like college kids to, they're young adults, I'm sorry, but to shadow and to learn how to do things. And as long as they're, like, in the back, not in the way, then, like, absolutely. So I think it's just be hungry, stay humble, ask questions when it's appropriate, like, to learn. And I think that's a motto you should carry, even if somebody becomes a CEO. It's stay hungry and be humble.
What are the perks?
And treat people with respect. My gosh, the perks are, it's amazing. Like, I've done some incredible things in my career, and it's funny looking back is when you really realize it, because when you're in it and you're present, you're just go, go, go. Right. And so I've now stopped to smell the roses a little bit now that I've, like, gotten a little older. And I think it's when people go, wow, what a cool job. You get to go to all these locations. I mean, I've been through, from season 1 was in Greece, 2 was in Croatia. Then we were in, the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And then we were in south of France. And then season 4 was, then we were in France, and then we were in Mallorca, Spain, and then we were, back to Croatia because they allowed us to shoot there. That was when the whole world was shut down. Then we went to Malta, and then we've got a location coming up that they're going to announce pretty soon. But it's amazing the places you get to see. So I think it's like the travel's amazing, and while you can't really do things while you're working, I've learned to stop in those moments to breathe, of, like, if I'm on a water taxi going to the boat, it's like, I look up, I'm not on my phone, and I look up and I was like, and I look at all the rock formations, like on that, like the Amalfi Coast, it's like, oh my God, or like the buildings on top of each other, or, it's look around and explore what you're seeing. And then, have a couple travel days before or after and do that for yourself. But the perks of it is the travel. I think that people that are working different types of shows, it's find the joy in what makes you happy on that show. For me, it's Below Deck, it's the location, it's the people. So it's that. I think it becomes a family when you're working on any series you're on. And I would say Below Deck the most. It's incredible that we have people that have worked on the show since season 1. That is so, like, uncommon in television, honestly. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Because it's a hard job. Like, the amazing camera people that we have on the series, those are tight spaces, and they are walking up and down stairs. Like, it is hard, and they're sweating. Meanwhile, I have no steps on my Apple Watch because I'm watching, and the camera people are
I do have to interject here. So when she's on the Amalfi Coast, Serene, there are times when Nadine cranks up the music, rocks up to the boat, and everybody turns and goes, wow, that boat looks fun.
The water taxi. So Sandy caught me in a rare moment. I did something very unprofessional, but I got to say it was very fun.
It was fun. We all wanted to be on your boat.
Yeah. In the middle of the season, when you are exhausted, and it is like, we live parallel lives as producers, as we are also living, we're living in hotels, but we are going to the boat. We are living parallel lives with the actual crew on camera in a weird way, psychologically, I'd say. And so it was midway through. It was actually, the boat was called, they named the boat Crazy Monster. It was our water taxi. It was actually south of France. And we, it was like, the captain was, sometimes you get a grumpy captain, sometimes you don't. And so, I asked him to put some music on, and by the way, this was early on, and he started playing music, and that's when he became less grumpy. And so it was one day we're like crank up. It was Vanilla Ice of all things, Ice Baby. We rolled up, and it was so loud on the boat that I disrupted the whole. And I think it was a slower charter.
Turned, the guests
turned, and we were like, oh my god! It was just, I was like, oh my god! And we get on the boat, and I just was hanging my head because our job is to be totally inconspicuous and like you don't see us fourth wall, and here I am rolling up with Ice Baby so loud. In my defense, I told him to turn it down sooner. But
listen, it was the highlight of our day, right? Sometimes you need that break,
You do. My God, you just start laughing. You just have to stop and laugh.
Yeah. I love every minute out there, even the hard ones. And there's, in Malta, I had a complete child moment with Nadine, and I'll never forget. We were going into this anchorage, and I had the original captain was still on the boat, and he had an ego, and he's like, "What are you afraid of? Just drive in there." And I gave him the helm, right? So I sat on the chair, the helm seat, and I go, "Nadine," with my arms crossed, "I am not anchoring in here," because there were rocks everywhere, and the surge was taking us towards shore. I'm a risk taker. Like, I am a calculated risk taker.
She'll go close to the shore as much as possible.
I will butt up right next to the rocks. But there's a point where I'm like, yep, nope, I can't recover. I always make sure I can recover. Well, when we pulled in, Nadine's like, don't worry about it. Let's don't anchor there. So we didn't. But the funny thing is that captain wouldn't turn the engines off. Do you remember that? I'm like, why are you turning the engines off? Because he realized how dangerous it was. So the respect from you, the pressure that's off my shoulders is incredible. And it wasn't like that in the beginning. And I want to say thank you for that, because it's a lot of pressure driving a boat full of people. And you want to keep them safe. And you helped me do that with grace and ease. So I appreciate
You're the captain. Yeah, I want to clear something up. When you said the original captain, it's funny, there's some article that was out there. Sandy does drive the boat. She is the captain. She is the captain on record. She's the captain that's signed on the boat. Sometimes, and this is just a little behind the scenes, which I'll probably get in trouble for saying, but I think it's important to say. No, I think it's important to say, actually. I think when you get the boat, because, you do see the first officer and the engineers and stuff like that you introduced in the beginning of the season. When we get the boat for the show, they are, people come with the boat. It's like two people, and they're the people that are, set by the management company. All boats are actually like that when you're handing boats over.
It's also a requirement from the owner or the management company.
That's right. So it's been two different seasons where the actual captain was required to drop down as a first officer on the series. And so when Sandy's saying the original captain, that's what she's talking about. But they are not driving the boat.
Very difficult to have two captains on the boat, let me tell you.
Yes. But and that happens on every season. It's not just, it happened on Down Under. We had the captain of the boat. They're not actually driving the boat. They're not at the helm. They're not the captain on record.
First officer. Yeah.
They're the first officer. And so when it happens more often than you'd think that's what it is. So
the owner requires
I want to clear up that. There's an article that was put out there, and it's like, no, Sandy is the real captain. I've never seen anybody dock a boat like Sandy in my life. Like, in my life. I mean, it is to the point where it's in Sandy's book. She tells a story, but like, we were in Saint-Tropez. There was no way. It was like the parting of the Red Sea, the way she like washed away these two boats so we could just squeeze in. It was, the slip was way smaller than our boat. And it was like, she just like, hit the thrusters. It moved the boats out of the way.
Yes. So the prop wash.
props.
So we learned this, right? Because I learned it from another captain. When you do the prop wash, it washes the boat out. And in a situation where you're in Fort Lauderdale, it stops the current. So if you use your prop wash, it'll stop the current for seconds so you can maneuver. And in that case, it washes the boats apart and you squeeze in there really fast.
Yeah, and the way it looks is really. I wish, like, if there was a way that you could actually show that on a camera with the prop wash and like a GoPro of like what it actually does, it'd be amazing. But I think we'd lose our cameras in 2 seconds. But it's incredible. Like, you could touch the other boat, and there's been so many instances where Sandy's been able, like, she's done that, and it's just like, I'm just amazed where it's, and there's an upcoming season, which we can't talk about location yet, but that it's not a tight docking, but it is a very difficult docking into a location, because there's a lot of traffic and it's a current will push you away. So it'll be very fun to watch that. I'm excited to watch that.
Nadine, you're incredible. Just, you show up and you just are this expert. Like, you worked hard to get to where you are. I watch you work. You put in the hours beyond what's expected and more. Like, I'm like, go to bed, like.
She actually makes me like, she's like, go to sleep. I care. And I'm not overbearing. I'm not a micromanager. Like, everyone is. I don't think I am. This is me.
Not at all.
But my goal is, and I hope I do, I empower people. I want everyone to feel, like they have a part of it, from the production assistants to the other EPs. It's so important, because for me, we're a team, we're a family. No idea is a bad idea. And we're all in it together, honestly. And that's how I with any show that I've ever done, but I've learned the most about myself and about leadership on Below Deck. And I think a lot of it is, watching you, Sandy, and watching a show about a workplace. To me, it's a study of psychology, but you learn so much, even from people that are behaving badly or poorly, to people that are, doing something heroic. You learn it from everything, because I think we all can see a little bit of ourselves in everyone. And I think that's the takeaway.
I love that. That is a beautiful way to end this podcast.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really special.
Nothing's hold me down again. I'm letting go to rise above.